What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita Show. I'm your host, Jack Vita, as always, and we have a very fun edition of the Jack Vita Show out today. Today we are discussing a plethora of baseball news. Happy Labor Day, by the way. But joining us right now is a man who's been in this game a long time. He played Major League Baseball. He's big in Japan. This is going to be a big episode for our Japanese audience. He played overseas, won a Japan Series MVP, led the Pacific League in home runs 3 different times, RBI 2 different times. Nice little Major League career as well. Yankees, Pirates, Marlins. I don't think I'm forgetting another team, am I?
No, I think that's it, buddy.
Those 3 teams, yeah. Okay, well, I'm
plenty.
I'm still introducing you. He was on Baseball Tonight for a long time on ESPN. He also called the Little League World Series, World Baseball Classic, and spent about the last 11, 12 years with the Rays, covering them on pregame, postgame, and in-game and sideline report. Did everything, really. We have a legend returning to the show, Orestes Destrade, the Big O, my uncle. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, buddy. It's good to be on with you, Jack Vita. It's always a pleasure. I've always enjoyed your takes on all things baseball, and in fact, all things life, really, to be honest with you. But it's great to be on with you and talking about, at this point in time, as you just said, here we are at Labor Day, which means it's early September. It's the beginning of September, which means we're getting down to the thick of just finishing a dramatic August for a few teams that got in the race, a few teams that are sputtering, and where is this, October going to end up being for those lucky few that make the playoffs? So it's going to be, I think, a fun show to try to decipher all that.
Fun show. We're also matching today. How about that?
It's a lucky shirt right here that I have.
What is it?
You're wearing one of my, at least it says the team that I played for many years ago, the Pirates, and I was very proud to have been a Bucko back in the day. In fact, I lockered right in between 2 greats. Bobby Bo was to my left, and Barry Bonds was to my right. So for a couple of seasons that I was over there, and I got to know both of them. I already knew Bobby Bo from years before, because believe it or not, Bobby Bo and I go way back. Bobby Bo and I, when we signed, we were sent to Bradenton, and the Yankees were doing a combined deal with the Bradenton Pirates at Pirate City. So I was able to do my first, getting used to minor league baseball at 19 years old at Pirate City, sharing that complex with the Pirates, and got to meet Bobby at the same time. We both signed around the same time. Him from New York, the city of New York, and me from Miami. So I've known Bobby for a long time. It was neat to be a part of that Pirate upswing in the late 80s.
Barry Bonds, what was he like?
Barry was fantastic for me. Barry was is a difficult person, can be a difficult person, was a difficult person. But I had Barry when he was like 22 years old, for those couple of years, 22, 23. And he was just, his biggest, maybe I have to say, an issue at times is that he just, he could fluctuate day to day. And not moment to moment, but really more day to day. I mean, if he was just having a bad day, that's the way it was going to be, and just you learn to leave him alone. But if there were so many, other things where he was very gracious, he was very kind. Barry Bonds called me the night he hit his 73rd home run. I was already retired, and I was done. This is whatever that was. It was
2001.
Yeah. So I had stopped playing back for, my second time in Japan back in, 98 or whatever. And we stayed friends throughout all that. He knew how big I was in Japan, and that I was always doing a lot of junkets over there, and, a lot of appearances and things like that. So he called me hoarse in the middle of the night, which was like middle of the night for me, Jack. It was like 4 a.m. It was like 1 a.m. in San Francisco. Remember, he hit it over there, and he had been doing interviews for about 2 hours after he hit that 73rd. And he goes, "Hey, it's BB." And I go, "BB, man, what are you doing calling? Congratulations." And he goes, We need to get to Japan. We gotta go to Japan. So I called my Japanese guys, and we set up a trip that winter. And he, I think, in about a week, he made like $200,000 in appearances. He was just and I got a nice little finder's fee for I went with him, so it was a great thing. So we've been very tight since then. And then lastly, I'll say when he became a hitting coach. He was frustrated, and it's interesting what he told me because I was doing, obviously with the Rays, and the Marlins came into town. This is when he was with the Marlins, and he goes, "These young guys just won't listen to me, man. They won't listen to me." And I looked at him and I said, "Like, you weren't listening to anybody when you were young, buddy." So it was kind of funny how it all came full circle. But he had a lot of things, and I remember hearing the same thing from Reggie Jackson. These are guys that were kind of hard headed when they were players. And didn't listen to a lot of guys, but they were at another level of hand-eye coordination. So, but all in all, I'll say that Barry's a good human being, misunderstood, and for me, with my own two eyes, the greatest player that I've ever seen in my life was Barry Bonds. Now, I didn't get the chance to see Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle in his heyday, Hank Aaron really truly in his heyday. I just got to see Dave Winfield, Ken Griffey Jr., George Brett, Kirby Puckett, all these great
Shohei
players.
Ohtani.
Yeah, I got to see Shohei. I mean, later on, I'm saying guys that with my contemporaries that I played with, Cal Griffin Jr., you name it, and head and shoulders was Barry Bonds was the greatest player as far as a 5-tool player. So I just wanted to say that because it's the truth. He was incredible.
Barry, by the way, his sort of off the field difficulties, issues, it's been well documented. You can read about it. But I have heard from people, I won't say who, but Barry Bonds couldn't be a nicer guy now.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you.
He's even nicer now than he was back then.
Yeah, and I think age does kind of, it does a couple things for you. It slows you down, and you start appreciating certain things. A lot of people say that about Lou Piniella right now. Lou, the last 20 years, he's been, here and pretty much not 20. I mean, he's been fully retired now for about 15 or so. And you run into Lou, and Lou is the sweetest man in the world. Lou was my first manager when I got called up to the Yankees. He was not the sweetest man in the world. he was a tough SOB at times. So that's just the way it works. But it's good that they appreciate the game now after the fact because the game was very good to those guys.
So O is really the guy to go to if you have questions about Japanese baseball, including questions about some of the stars that are coming over from the other side of the pond, at least that side of the pond. We always say side of the pond, we think Europe, but we're talking about Pacific Ocean. But there have been, a handful of guys who've come over in recent years who have had a big impact. Before we talk about the big one, I'm curious to hear your thoughts and assessments on Masataka Yoshida, Kodai Senga, and Seiya Suzuki.
Well, listen, Senga's done a phenomenal job. I mean, I think he's for a first-year guy, and and dealing with a situation with the Mets, being as volatile as it is, and not being in a situation where he could. He had a whole lot of support with their offense and a lot of things. I thought he's done a great job, and he's going to really only trek higher as he gets more accustomed to the major leagues. So there's an upside to his dramatic pitches, especially he's a true fork ball thrower because a lot of people don't realize that there's a split and then there's a true fork ball when you get, and the Japanese really have mastered the fork ball. The best one probably arguably that they've ever sent over here was the one that broke the ice, which Hideo Nomo. And Senga is kind of in that mold of Nomo, who's a high fastball, hard in the mid-90s, and it's just an incredible forkball. It just literally drops. The difference between a split and a split will literally kind of go like a slider. It'll dip down and away. You can pressure it a little bit. The fork, you can't even control as much. It's almost knuckles over the plate. So Senga has done a great job. I think Yoshida has been as steady as you can expect. He's not turned the cover off the ball as far as doing some grandiose leading the league in hitting, but he's hitting right there close to 300. He's an RBI machine. What he reminds me really a lot of is what Matsui did when he came over to the Yankees.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hideki Matsui. Just a solid guy that was going to hit 280, 290, close to 300, give you 20 home runs. And as Yoshida learns the league, he'll even give you, and with the ball being as lighter as it is, it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I think Yoshida's going to end up hitting 25, 30 one year. But he'll drive in 80, 90, 100. He's another one that's on the uptick. So great signing by both those big boy teams, New York and Boston. And who was the other one that you were trying
Suzuki.
Suzuki, he's doing a nice job. I haven't seen his stats as of late. What's he looking? What's his line?
So he's at right now. He was in a big slump throughout the summer. Got benched about a month ago. Yeah. Came back, and since then he's been playing much better. But he's at 265 on the season, right. 338 OBP, 778.
Hell of an outfielder.
14 home runs and 49 RBI.
And he's been a part of this resurgent, Cubs team that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But the reality is that, here's a guy that, first of all, heck of an outfielder, heck of a right fielder. He's got a gun of an arm, so he's on the upside on that. But got injured last year, and I think he hasn't really kind of fully recovered from that enough to see what he truly is. Because this guy really is a 3,100 potential guy. He's that powerful, has pole-to-pole power. So you haven't seen the true, say Suzuki just yet. But I think that he's on the come in the sense that I think you got to give him a little bit of a mulligan of adjustment, and then the injury set him back a little bit. But I like him. I'm a bigger Yoshida fan than I am a Suzuki fan. But both I think are prominent. They're going to be prominent ball players for quite a while.
Well, it's interesting because the Cubs have a glut of outfielders right now. They're in an interesting spot because they have Suzuki. He's signed through 2026. They extended Ian Happ. Not entirely sure why. He's okay. He's fine, but you kind of want more out of your left field position. It's a big bat position.
I totally agree.
He's not a big bat. His defense is not good, even though he won a Gold Glove last year somehow.
Right.
And then you've got Cody Bellinger, who you'd love to re-sign because he's been playing like an MVP caliber player, but then you've also got, they brought up Alexander Canario this past week. He hasn't played yet. He's one of their outfield prospects.
They have some youngsters.
They've got Pete Crow Armstrong, who's one of the top 10 prospects in all of baseball. He should be coming up next year. And then they've also got a couple other outfielders that are very promising. That's been the organizational strength. So to me, the Happ extension made very little sense to me because now I feel like it's going to be harder to keep Bellinger. When Bellinger's your best player, you've already got two of your outfielders locked up for the next 4 years, and you want to have room for your young guys to be able to come up, and that's how your franchise is going to turn a corner, is through the pipeline. So I don't really know where they're going with that.
I don't either, and I don't know if they're going to be able to keep Cody Bellinger. It was interesting that, listen, hindsight's 20/20 because they didn't trade Cody Bellinger, and I was very surprised. I thought a Yankee, with the need in the outfield, talk about outfield need, they could have used Cody, in the outfield, even at first if you wanted to, because of the situation, at first base for the Yankees. But the bottom line is that they keep him, and now they're making a resurgent, push. So ironic, Shohei Ohtani doesn't get traded, and they make a slight little push, and then they dive. So, it's interesting how you look at things, but I don't. It's going to be expensive to keep Shohei Ohtani, and the Chicago Cubs have not been one to spend, that $200-300 million contract that it might take to keep Cody Bellinger, because Cody Bellinger is going to be a very much in demand player.
The Cubs will spend when they're in a position. Last year they gave Swanson $177 million.
They did. I mean, I think Cody's going above Swanson.
They gave Lester a big contract. They gave Hayward a big contract.
They did, and that's what I mean. I think they've done it a few years past. They have so many young players.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at Cincinnati and the Chicago Cubs, I'll let you tell me which of these two organizations have the better under 2-year players right now. I mean,
I would say the Reds.
The Reds are just ridiculous with young talent, but the Chicago's got some really exciting young talent too.
Cubs have they've got some pieces coming up, which is why it's interesting.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not even saying all the guys that they've
right. They've got
2 years or less.
They've got guys.
I'm saying on AA and AAA from what I've read.
Yeah,
and heard about.
They've got a lot that's supposed to come up, which is why it's been interesting to me that they've gone in this direction of extending Ian Happ and signing Jameson Taillon to a 4-year deal. And some of those other moves. Because you know what's interesting, is I've been someone that has been a longtime doubter and skeptic of this team. I did not think this team was going to be anywhere close to where they are right now. They are, at this time, 73-64. They make the playoffs if the season ended today. They've got the best run differential in the NL Central. But why is that? What is going on with the Cubs? The thing that's funny is it's not those big contracts. The 3 big contracts that they really gave out over the past several months were the Swanson contract, the Taillon contract, and the Happ extension. Then you could even go back another year and you could say Marcus Stroman, his contract.
Yeah.
Stroman's not even pitching right now. He had a great stretch his first 15 starts or so. Then he was really bad. And they've been winning since Stroman stopped pitching. Now, what's really going on here is it's kind of, if you look past a few of those contracts, it's a little more of like a small market startup kind of thing going on here, because the guys who've been the big contributors have been a mix of some of those young players, such as Justin Steele, Javier Assad coming up into the rotation recently. He's been good.
How about that kid?
And then Nico Horner he's early in his career. He's been very good. It's a mix of those guys and Christopher Morel being one of them as well. And the 1-year bargain bin players that they signed. So obviously Cody Bellinger, we'll talk about him in a second, but how about Yan Gomes? How about Mike Tauchman? How about, they've had Yeimer Candelario, guy they got at the trade deadline. It's a lot of like the discount pieces. Suzuki, he's a young guy. It's this fusion of young talent and undervalued players.
I mean, of course, Patrick Wisdom been a guy who's given him 21 homers. I mean, he's kind of like a swing, hit or miss kind of guy there, obviously, because he's only hitting 200. But you're right. They've really maximized and surprised the league. I did not see them doing a whole heck of a lot this year. I really didn't.
Many of us did.
And it's crazy because, and I know it's going to be, probably a sore subject because I know you're a White Sox fan too. And I'm
not a fan. No.
Oh, you're not a fan.
I'm not a fan of anybody. I was a Cubs fan growing up.
I thought you were both Chicago teams. You kind of loved them.
No. Really. I was raised to love the Cubs, hate the White Sox. Now I'm neutral. Now
you're neutral.
Yeah.
Well, if you looked on paper once again, the White Sox should have like trounced the back in March when you looked at it as to what the White Sox should have done. So. But that's a whole nother debacle of an organization that needs, been trying to reboot for a while now. And for some crazy reason, a quick side note, I don't think they ever should have gotten rid of Rich Renteria, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I think they should have kept Rich Renteria in order to progress with a better mantra, so to speak, into what the White Sox were trying to build with a lot of young, individualistic, incredible talent, which is what they have singularly, all diced around offensively and pitching. And they haven't had that cohesive guy to bring them together. So,
but isn't this funny with the Cubs? Because you've got Happ batting third every day. He's batting 248. Really not a whole lot of power. He's played a little better over the last week or two. You've got Dansby Swanson batting typically somewhere between second and fifth. He's been in a huge slump over the past couple months. He's really not giving him much offensively. Didn't really see a need for him considering Nico Horner had locked down the shortstop position a year ago. So I don't entirely know why they made that move. But then the other guy, I know that. So and then Jameson Taillon being that big pitching signing, he's had the worst ERA of all their starters. He's got an ERA close to 6. Drew Smiley, another guy that they re-signed.
Drew Smiley is close to 6 too.
Both of those guys have been really bad.
Those were the two guys that were supposed to be. I mean, along obviously with Stroman. Or were to be potentially. Honestly, when I saw that starting rotation, other than Stroman, I wasn't like super excited.
Yeah,
to be candid with you, because
Stroman with if Hendricks can come back, which Hendricks has been great.
Yeah,
but
it's I don't know, but listen, that wild card race, when you look at it, is available. You know what I mean?
It is.
So I mean, it's not just. I mean, obviously they still have a chance to even up and to win the division, but holy cow! I mean, I'm just they're 3.5 back, so they're still in the race They got another
series with Milwaukee.
They got another series with Milwaukee. I like Milwaukee. I'm going to be candid with you.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of the Brew Crew and what they're doing with the revitalized Yelich and that whole crew, but. And then you've got Cincinnati, who's chomping at the bit there, right behind them. The wild card's going to be nuts, man. I mean, what are we looking at right now in the National League? You've got Philly, Chicago, Arizona playing well. Miami is in the mix.
San Francisco.
San Francisco's in the mix with 70 wins. I mean, it's crazy. Really, you go all the way down to pretty much, to Cincinnati. I mean, I don't really. San Diego Padres have been they're ridiculously. They're worse than the White Sox as far as the debacle this year, and it's ridiculous because they had all the pieces put together. But this is a legit 6 teams trying to to vie for a couple positions, so it's crazy.
Couple more things on the Cubs. I just find it ironic that it's been, and then another one, Trey Mancini, Eric Hosmer. Yeah. These were guys who were supposed to come in, and
what happened to Haas?
He's not on a team. Mancini's not on a team. They both got DFA'd. And then Nick Madrigal and Christopher Morel were kind of the guys who were forced out by some of those signings, such as the Swanson one. Madrigal coming up big yesterday with a big hit. He's been on a tear lately. Morel had to start the season in AAA. And then Assad is another one who recent addition to the rotation. So it's just funny to me that a big reason why this team is doing so well has been a lot of the players that they almost undervalued internally at the start of the season.
Yeah. I mean, really, when you think about, you said before, you had to move a steady player in Horner over to second, and this guy's been one of your steadiest hitters all year long. I mean, the dude did, in runs, 84 runs, stolen bases. The guy's a legit all-star and potential, and you moved him over for Swamsby, I get for Swanson, excuse me.
Yeah,
but I get it. I get it, but they're going to be figuring that one out for a while now, because he's in there. He's in there for a minute at what 170, 175,
177 over 7 years. Now the big one though, we can't ignore it. The big reason why the Cubs are in this position is Cody Bellinger, and this is. I'm going to ask you this though: how many wins better do you think the Cubs are with Bellinger in the lineup versus without Bellinger in the lineup? Because I added this up yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, give me the number that you found out.
They're 15 games better.
15 games better. Holy
So
sheesh.
that's
dramatic.
15 wins, 15 win
Holy cow.
difference. They're 58 and 46 with him in the lineup. Without him in the lineup, they're 15 and 18.
How about that? He is just doing everything right now for them, and not just hitting home runs, driving in runs. He's scoring runs. He's stealing bases. So he's at the precipice of his 20th stolen base. I think I'll be honest with you. I didn't see Cody Bellinger being this great of player. This dynamic 5-tool player. I saw him being good, but I didn't see him being this great. And he's positioning himself, very much even beyond Swanson, as far as contract wise, that it's gonna take well over $200 million to sign this guy, in the coming off season when he's a free agent. So a great keep is what I got to say right now, because I mean, were you not thinking a month ago or so that or a little more than a month ago, because it was August 1st, that he's gonna be pushed somewhere?
I thought that they should trade him somewhere.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I looked in the American League and National League as far as guys that could really help you immediately. It was Shohei and it was Cody Bellinger, and neither one went. But you look at both teams, and one is benefiting from keeping him, and one obviously it just didn't work out with the moves. And man, if the Angels didn't try to make a push, they brought in some new veteran blood, just didn't work. Trout comes back, he gets injured, he's done. And now you're sitting in a situation where at least the Cubs can try to keep Cody Bellinger. The Angels, I feel, probably have no chance to keep.
Oh, no chance. Interesting.
I don't think so.
Why do you say that?
I don't think. I say that because I think that in the end, the reason you kept Shohei Ohtani and the chance to re-sign him was to have made the playoffs and hopefully have gone deep into playoffs. In fact, it would have worked to their advantage if they had made the playoffs and not even make it to the World Series, but get to the precipice. Maybe they get to the ALCS. And, okay, now, the offseason's here. We were this close. Now, that $500 million signing could keep him. And if somebody else is offering $550, he's going to go, no, I'm going to try to win a World Series with my team because we're so close. Now it's looking like it's a debacle. It's not close, and they're not making the playoffs. So it's almost like everybody around him is going to go, man, listen, you need to go to a frontline team that's going to make the playoffs, that's going to give you a chance to be, front and center, bright lights, big city. And that's going to take, the Dodgers or Boston, either the two New Yorks, San Francisco, if he wants to stay out west. Those teams perennially, Suns, the Mets, perennially are in the playoffs.
So I've asked this question to Bob Nightingale and Rhett Bollinger, who covers the Angels for MLB.com. I've asked them both on this show, and those are some guys who are very, very much plugged in, and they have said the same thing. Anybody who says they know where Ohtani is going or what he's thinking is lying, because this guy is so private. However, both of them pointed out some clues about Ohtani, and they both believe, and I'm on the same page with them, that Ohtani is only going to really sign with a West Coast team.
That's what I'm hearing. I don't know how much I take that to at a full 100% clip, because I think I'm telling you, I think a lot has just happened. Believe it or not, it's not about the injury. It's not about whether he got traded or not, because he could have gotten traded and still re-signed, with the Angels, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, but it's unlikely. Right? I mean, it's unlikely. It's like telling your girlfriend, your long-term girlfriend, you want to take a break, and then she finds love with someone else.
What it matters, I think, what matters to me is what the Angels are looking like in the coming 3 to 4 to 5 years. when he's still peaking, right? So the fact that they kept him, I thought he was very happy. He was like, yeah, you got to understand I understand the Japanese methodology and mentality. And they're very much about WA. WA is unity and team unity. So he's been with this team. This is the team that chose him, from Japan, and has weathered the storms with him, and the storms being, coming over, getting accustomed to major leagues, going through Tommy John once, right? Overcoming that, right? And coming out the other side. Oh, by the way, in a minute, I'll explain to you how that actually helped his career, having had Tommy John, and then becoming what he really is now, the phoenix that has risen, right? Well, going to the playoffs was paramount. If they just would have made the playoffs, I'm telling you, I feel that they would have had a chance to sign him. And it's not the money, it's the potential that then the Angels would have. Mike Trout's coming back. Mike Trout's still going to be a phenom of a player when he gets fully healthy. It's just the matter with Mike Trout right now is, can he stay healthy on the field for a full year? It's not as Mike Trout is good. He's not getting worse when he comes back. He's still a beast, right? So here's what happens. You make the playoffs, there's an impetus that he'd be willing to take a lot less to stay with the Angels and stay in the West Coast. Now, I think it's just been completely, crumbled, right? There's not a playoff team. He's going to not go through the motions because he's such a diehard baseball guy, but the team is going through the motions. It's going to be noticeable. It's going to be heartfelt. He's going to be like, okay, well, I have to move on now, right? And it's going to be a tough decision for him. But as far as the East Coast, West Coast, brother, here's the team that I think has the best chance, and if they really seriously get serious about him, they have the money, right? And the team that makes the most sense, I think, in the East Coast. It's not Boston. It's not the Mets. It's the New York Yankees. And it's almost a movie script kind of signing. Why? First of all, they already have history with Japanese players and Japanese players being successful. They won a World Series. In fact, Matsui was an MVP in 2009. They had success with Tanaka. They got Ichiro at the tail end of his career. So they have enough. There's enough tenure there with Japanese players that it's not some surprise team with Japanese players. So that's important to the Japanese player. You understand what I'm saying? It's important to know that this team, this organization understands our methodology and mental state because they've gone through three super uber stars, right? Well, secondly, it's the Babe Ruth factor. And this is a kind of a movie-esque type of a thing. But who was the one that he's compared to all the time? Because of the pitching and the hitting. It's Babe Ruth. So if there's any chance, I think it's kind of like bringing it to the Yankee Stadium. It would behoove the Yankees to be in that offer and maybe offer a little more. With the Angels being out of the picture, I feel now because of the lack of production by the team. Now the Yankees could step in and offer that $500. Oh, by the way, there's no doubt that his stock has to dropped probably by $75 to $100 million because you have to wait for,
Yeah, do you think he's going to pitch again?
Yes, 100% that he'll pitch again. I think he'll pitch again, but you're going to have to wait for it so that devalues the contract. But still, let's say he was never, ever, ever, ever a pitcher. He's still worth, 400, 500. Like if you paid Mike Trout that much money, then you're going to pay, a healthy big boy like he is. But the thought of him pitching still is there, and I think will happen. Oh, by the way, real quick, the reason he became the great hitter that he is, having followed him since high school, right? And when he played with the Nippon Ham Fighters and throughout his career, and even when he signed with California, with the Angels, was that his whole career, it's been always pitching first, hitting second. Pitching first, hitting second. In fact, if you look through his whole tenure, he was a great pitcher, a good hitter. Great pitcher, good hitter. High school, major leagues in Japan, and even when he first 2 years in with the Angels, he was really more like, people were more excited about his pitching than his hitting. He hit like 280. He won Rookie of the Year. He hit 20 home runs. He stole a few bags. When 2020 hit and he blew out his arm, so they said, you could not pick up a baseball. This is the first time in his life that he was not allowed to pitch for that long a period. That he just concentrated on hitting, started to do more weight training, gained about 15 or 20 pounds of mass, and all that he really concentrated was hitting. For the first time in his life, he just had to just hit, brother, and a shortened season so he could even work more on just practice of hitting. That's what you got in 21. You got this behemoth of a hitter that was always kind of pulled hitting-wise from his pitching, which kind of needed more. Pitching always, listen, I always dog the pitchers that they're babies and they only, especially starters, they only pitch once every 5 days and then you get the chart. But the reality is that's a difficult position, man. And you have to stay on top of it. Your arm, we're already seeing the injuries that we're seeing, right? You have to stay on top of it. You got to stay healthy. You got to do your bullpen. You got to mentally be there. It's not like hitting where sometimes you could just be in a groove and you're hitting just out of just response. The Manning, just you see the fastball hit. Pitching, you have to have a mental and physical acumen. So when that was taken away from him and you don't have to worry about it for more than a year, he was able to concentrate completely on the hitting. Holy cow, did he turn into now a duality that match itself. And his hitting now is just surpassing his pitching. And trust me, he's a hell of a pitcher. So, yeah, I think he'll pitch again because now he's going to concentrate on his hitting. He'll heal. I mean, there's precipice of double Tommy John surgery guys that have come back and come back strong because the technology now is better than ever. So, yeah, I think he'll pitch. And I think there is that 20% chance that he goes to the East team. And I really think if he does go to an East team, it's going to be the storybook kind of thing tied to Babe Ruth and the duality, scenario of the Yankees. And I'll end with this. I'm a Yankee fan.
I know.
I'm a Yankee fan. So,
you can tell.
There might be a little bit of an inkling in there where I do not want Boston. I do not want the Mets to get him. For that, stay out west and sign with the Dodgers and do what you got to do. But if you're coming out east, Shohei-san, when I see him again, I'm going to talk to him. In fact, he'll be here in a couple, 3 weeks. He'll be here on the 20th and 21st at the Trop. I'm going to go pay him a visit and say hello. And I'm going to, maybe I might even slip him a Yankee hat and put it in his bag. Just be like, I'll give him a present. And I'll put it in a box. And I said, don't open it until after the season. That's what I'm going to say. Don't open it until after the season. Then when he opens it, it's going to be a Yankee hat. And he's going to laugh. And he's going to go, I swear to God, I might do that. I might give him a present that says you can't open it till after the season.
Okay, well, come back and give us an update on that. I know you love the Yankees. I hate to burst your bubble. Everything we heard about the guy is he doesn't like the big city. He doesn't like the nightlife. He likes the West Coast. He likes being close to Japan.
If anything, the one city that he does like in the East that he said good things about was Boston. Believe it or not, he's actually because it's a smaller big city,
and they've got Yoshida too. He could recruit.
They've got Yoshida, so there's a connection there. He did like Boston.
I think he's going to stay with one of the two LA teams. I think he's going to stay in LA. Now, let me ask you this, last thing on Ohtani.
I wouldn't stay with the Angels.
You don't think he will stay with the Angels, but I'm curious to know if you're very well connected to Japan, you know what these guys are like, you know what that culture values, and I'm curious if there's any kind of value placed within that culture of loyalty and perhaps staying with one organization for an entire career. Is that something that those guys might put a little more value or thought into than people over here in the States do?
There is a huge loyalty scenario. It's been built in in Japan because of the fact that they just recently, and I say recently in the last decade, created a kind of an open scenario where you could become a free agent, right? It's been maybe a little more, it's going up on closer to 20 years, but really in the big picture of things, that's a small sliver compared to, we've been doing it since the late 70s, right? Where players are starting to jump. We're starting to jump over and trades and things. Not a whole lot of trades. You stayed with a team, and it was almost like the 50s and 60s and the early 70s of Major League Baseball, where you were signing 1-year deals, and it was almost over the top until 15, 20 years ago with Japan, that it was a controlled scenario by the ownership. I didn't agree with it. Okay, because a foreigner could come in and sign a 2 or 3 year deal for millions of dollars like I did. And then I was looking at these 1-year deals for guys next to me that were pretty much as good as I was. And they were stuck having to put their, hat in front of them and going, I hit 300 last year and I hit 30 home runs. Yeah, but you struck out 120 times. We're going to knock you 5%. I mean, that's literally what they've been doing until recently. So that being said, yeah, there's this loyalty. But they're also getting more kind of original now, and they're seeing that you have to maximize your marketability. So the reason that I say that East Coast might be a chance, and the reason that I say that I think the Dodgers are probably the key team to possibly get them, is because you still have to market yourself, and you still have to look at, how much can you really do as a ball player, even though the Japanese tend to be more systematic about between the lines as opposed to I want to be in the movies. That's not what I'm saying. But, it's just going to be a poll. He's going to be the first player for real in Japan, because Nomo never got to this situation where it came in front of him. Ichiro never did either.
Yeah.
By the time Ichiro was going to be a free agent, it was the downslide of his career. Matsui you couldn't ask for anything bigger than New York Yankees, right? So this is the first guy that has the opportunity, Japanese-wise, to pick where he really wants to go. And not that he's coming from Japan. He's already established here. It could be very interesting to see how there's influences of agents and stuff like that, and how his influence of Japanese heart comes together. Because if you think about it, if he goes to New York, brother, even if he goes to Boston, even if he goes to the Mets, I'm just saying if he goes to the East with the time frame and being, when prime time, when you're watching him prime time every night, and the ESPNs and the blogs and everybody and the podcast are talking about him every night.
Well, he's already being talked about every night.
He's being talked about, but you got to admit that there's something to be said about being on the East Coast as far as the day-to-day
coverage. Yep, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's
so that coverage will be bigger. So then you're bigger, and he's not. You don't stay in LA to be a movie star. It's different for. So I don't know. It definitely has worked for LeBron. LeBron went to the East. But basketball's different, because basketball plays how many times a week, and the Lakers are technically on prime time, right? When you want to watch a Laker game, you could turn it on at 9:00. They're playing at 6, but you're watching LeBron at 9:00 in your household in the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? That's not happening with the Angels. They're not on every night at 9:00 anywhere in the East. It's an interesting thing, because then marketing wise, you could just do so many things.
Well, it is a different thing, because in baseball, everybody watches their team every night. They don't typically watch the national broadcasts unless it's a Sunday night baseball block where it's the only game going.
Right, where it's blocked out. Right. I agree.
And I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think it's a good thing, because we have this loyalty where you're watching your team every single night, And I think some people look at that as a bad thing. I think John Boy broke it down. It's basically, baseball is the most popular show every single night. It's just that 30 different cities are watching their own version of American Idol. It's a different.
They're watching their own version of what they want to watch.
Yeah.
But
they're all watching the same sport.
Here's the other thing with reference to Shohei Ohtani. He's going to, they're going to sit him down and maybe he's going to be tutored this. He's going to be, throwing at him. Right now, he's the type of guy that he's blinders, right? I just want to deal with baseball. He didn't even want to talk about getting traded, and he didn't. If you really paid attention to his press conferences, nothing. So then the only thing he said was, I don't want to talk about it. And then when they said they're not trading him, he came out and made a press conference. He goes, I'm happy. They're not trading me. Let's get back to baseball. But here's the catch, Jack, and that is you have to see Shohei Ohtani in the playoffs, man. So these people are going to say, okay, well then go to the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers make the most sense out of other.
Or even the Giants.
Yeah, the Giants. I don't know. I mean, the Giants need him more than anybody because of their ticket sales.
More than anybody.
Yeah, they need the ticket. And the thing is, though, I think the Angels are going to pony up and try to match any offer that's out there. So it'll just be, if he wants to come back, he'll have that option. If he wants to.
The Angels are not going to let him go over 50 or 75, even $100 million.
In fact, the Angels might be willing to pay more than anybody. Like the Dodgers, I could see.
Very likely.
I could see the Dodgers saying, you know what, he's a little out of our price range now because of this Tommy John.
Well, not just that. Well, this Tommy John surgery has definitely diminished his price range. He was looking at 10 for 600. I'd say now he's in that 10 for 500, which still is going to blow away any any deal that's been done, right? Which is with the biggest one being his teammate in Trout. But so he'll still be at probably about 500. The problem is not that. The problem is which team gives him playoff potential, because in the end, I even think MLB is going to kind of come in there a little bit and go, Artie Moreno, brother, listen, I'm sorry. I know you're making all these things. You guys just can't seem to make the freaking playoff. And we need to put this guy. Who does NBA have in the playoffs all the time?
LeBron.
And who else? Steph. Giannis.
Yeah.
All the stars are in the playoffs. Are you going to tell me this is the one sport where you never see Trout, you never see Shohei Ohtani? You're kidding me, man.
And yet, Major League Baseball playoffs outraid NBA playoffs over the past year.
They do. And how about that? That's a very.
So
impressive.
That's where I don't want to be too hard and say we got to be like the NBA, because the NBA has some good things.
I think it's. You're right. People are still going to watch, but it's what the MLB is giving the opportunity to provide.
Yeah, if we had Mike Trout and Ohtani, if that team could make it to the playoffs. Now,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, how do we help either the Angels or how do we get this guy out of there? You know what I mean? Because
I don't necessarily think the Angels are too far away from getting there, though, because
you're sounding like a Chicago White Sox fan right now. Every season, they're not too far. They look pretty darn good. I've been all in on the Angels for the last 2 or 3 years, bro. When I look at them on paper, I go, if Trout stays healthy, wow. Definitely since 21. Since 2021.
It's funny. I've been the opposite. I've been out on the Angels, but I like some of the smaller moves that they made with bringing in. I want to see what Logan O'Hoppe can do in a full season next year.
I hear you.
I like what Moniak's
that was a guy that hurt his elbow or something.
Yeah, because Jim Callis, our guy,
Jim Callis. Week of the season he got hurt, or the second week of the season he got hurt. He just came back, didn't he?
O'Hoppe. And Jim Callis, the godfather of prospect analysis, he told me, he said this guy is, Buster Posey, JC Real Muto type of franchise catcher. So I'm a little curious to see what Perry Minasian can do, given he's kind of got his. I mean, I think the main thing is that they probably need a new owner, because the owner, Artie Moreno, is controlling a lot of the stuff. So Minasian is limited. He's limited in what he can do, but I think he's made some nice little smaller moves over the past couple of years. So I don't necessarily think they're in baseball purgatory. They're in baseball hell. I think they're worst positions to be in. But, and I mean, it's just the main thing. The reason why they're in this situation is it's an ongoing pattern of mismanaging your resources and with your contracts, your finances. I mean, it's a long list of...
Rondon was horrendous.
Justin Upton, Josh Hamilton, C.J. Wilson, Albert Pujols.
The lefty, Washburn.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Weaver.
They made a mistake
Jared Weaver,
There was another one that they made a mistake with that they gave like $100 million to.
C.J. Wilson.
Maybe I was thinking C.J. Wilson. Yeah. But that's what I was saying. When they made those deals, that's why I was like all in with these guys. Because I'm like, Rondon, good call. This is going to be great. They're going to have a 3-4-5 or a 2-3-4 of, Trout, of Shohei, Trout, Rondon. They've got some young guys coming up. This team's there. They just get a couple of pitchers. Then they got C.J. Wilson, and I'm like, what? How, they go to Anaheim, and it's like they disappear. I don't get it. So, something's going on.
The worst thing that I think
can't bring it together.
The worst thing that I think they did over the past this season was going for it. I don't think that was a mistake. I like the move. You're trying to go for it. You're trying to make it happen. You want to keep Ohtani, but when you can't, when you regress and you fall out of the hunt. And last week, you put 6 or 7 of your guys on waivers, several of whom that you picked up in hopes of pushing this thing forward, essentially because you just don't want to pay their salaries for the last month. I think that's the worst look out of all of it.
Yeah. It was, man. I was so excited when they were all in and they did trade him. I kind of thought he was going to get traded, but then when they didn't, I was like, wow. All right, man, go for it. And then they won like 6 straight. Remember?
Yeah.
They came out
swept
of
the Yankees.
Yeah, they swept the Yankees, and I'm like, they're okay. They're in. No, don't get me started about this. Though, by the way, they just swept Houston. So hold your horses. They might win 20 in a row. You never know. They might do. Who was it? The Oakland A's that did that?
Yeah, Moneyball. And the 2017 Cleveland Indians.
Cleveland Indians won like
21
in a row.
I think
right?
21, 22. And then the Cardinals 2 years ago, I think, won 20.
The Cardinals did that too.
It's possible.
I want to say Seattle Mariners did something crazy like that.
Probably. I mean, they won 117 games, so they had to have 116. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking about a specific year. I remember Oakland did that madness where they won 20 in a row. Cleveland did it. St. Louis did something crazy. I'm talking September madness.
Late. Yeah.
So
Cleveland did it.
Know.
Yeah.
The Yankees, they could. I'm sorry.
An eternal optimist.
I was speaking of, Shohei and the Japanese market. I was just looking at, because I don't know if you remember. Well, obviously I was there live and on the field with Team Japan.
Yeah,
celebrating with them, and they had what I thought was an incredible 2-3-4, talking about Ohtani, Trout, and Rondon, which didn't materialize obviously, but they had Ohtani, Murakami. Is it Murakami? No. Who's my guy there? Yeah, Murakami and Yoshida that hit 2-3-4. And so a guy to watch is the kid Murakami.
Could he be coming over to the States soon?
He could. I think it's too soon. He's actually having an off year, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
He's hitting. He's got 25 jacks, 72 home runs. This guy was Triple Crown last year. He's hitting 252. He's something special. He is something really, really, really special. And then you've got, and he's only 20. I want to say I think it's just shy of, I think he's 22. So he's still young. And then also in that 22-ish age range is Roki Sasaki. So in fact, next week, I just heard from my underground Yankees connections, Omar Minaya, who was hired this past offseason by Brian Cashman, is they're both going to Japan for a little look-see next week. So they're going to be over there for a few days, taking a look at probably Roki. Roki is a 20-game winner. That guy is ridiculous. Arguably a better pitcher than Shohei Ohtani is. It's just, obviously he doesn't hit, but this kid, his breaking pitches are in another level, and his fastball with a spin rate, and he can hit you up high, down low. He throws cutters, sliders, splitter, curveball, change. He's just ridiculous, this kid. And he's 6'4", he's got the build. Yeah, I was on the field with those guys when they won, with Yu Darvish, Roki, and a couple guys from my Cebu Lions, the team that I played for when I was over there, were on that team. So very proud of that team, and their coaching staff were former contemporaries of mine. So, you're going to see more and more Japanese guys keep on coming over.
So, we've only got a few minutes here. I just want to touch on a couple other things. So,
sure.
It was really interesting last week. One of the big stories, as we mentioned, a lot of waiver claims. We had Harrison Bader and Hunter Renfroe going over the Reds. The Guardians picked up Matt Moore, Lucas Giolito, and Reynaldo Lopez to bolster their bullpen.
Yeah,
it was interesting because I don't remember. I know we've only had this for a couple years where we don't have the waiver trade deadline anymore.
The waiver trade deadline, that taking that away has just changed the whole element, right?
But I don't remember last year that many guys going up on waivers. So I say bring back the waiver trade deadline because these moves are going to happen. It's more fun if it's a trade, right?
I liked the trade, aspect of it in the sense that it made it, fairly competitive. That the home team that was putting you on waivers had to kind of jockey and make a decision. You know what I mean? And the team that was, that's claiming you had to make, so there was a little bit of back and forth there. Now it's just like boom, these guys are jumping.
Now it's fantasy football.
If I'm not wrong, was there not a case where Hunter Renfroe was put on waivers but still played in a game?
Yes, that's right. And I think Bader, too. I think Bader played in the game.
Bader might have played in the game, too. I know Hunter Renfroe because I think he got a key hit in the game that he stayed in on. Has that ever happened before, or is this because of the new rule?
I don't remember ever seeing that, personally.
I thought when you put on waivers, you were
it was like your DFA. You don't play. You're off the roster.
You're off the roster. You're kind of like in this limbotic state of like you might be coming back, but you could be going, to another team. Or obviously the trade scenario. That was the weirdest thing. I'm watching and I'm going, didn't I just the day before I heard that Hunter was put on waivers, and then I'm watching the highlights and he's hitting a double, and I'm going like, that's kind of cool actually, but kind of weird.
Well, Puig got traded and he was still playing in that game before the trade got finalized. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that. But there was another one too. Who was it that got traded in the middle of a doubleheader? And he got traded to the other team.
Oh, gosh. That's happened a couple times.
It's happened a couple times, right? Where the guy actually changed uniforms or something in the middle of a doubleheader and got traded.
It's happened. I mean, I can't remember which time because it happened a few times.
I want to say it was Robbie Thompson.
That could be. Not sure.
With the Giants, I thought it was.
Could be. I remember, and then another iconic moment was when Wilmer Flores thought he had been traded.
Remember?
He stays in the game, and then he gets pulled from the game. He looks like he's crying, and then he wasn't actually included in the trade.
He wasn't, and he got to stay, and then they ended up trading him later on anyway. That was when he was with the Mets.
And he's actually having a great year this year.
He's having a pretty solid year, man. He's having a pretty darn good year. I like that kid. And,
Cleveland goes out there, and they pick up these guys. They're 5 games back in Minnesota. They've won 4. They had won 4 in a row, came close to sweeping the Rays yesterday. Now they open up a huge series against the Twins in Cleveland. 3 games. If they sweep this series, all bets are off. Anyone can win this division.
How about that? I mean, this has been a team that offensively just did not show up for the first 3 months plus of the season. They're pitching wise, they've been as strong as anybody on the mound. They play pretty solid defense, but they just we're not getting any offense on a regular basis, especially getting guys on base when they were supposed to be this, the Quan was supposed to get on base a lot and their leadoff guys and then drive them in. That wasn't happening. So they've just revamped their offense quite a bit. They did get Naylor back now off of the injured list. And I think that, that's going to help a little bit. But the bottom line is that if they hit, they're in the mix and they're capable because they play great defense. And they pitch their they pitch their lights out, man.
They're
solid.
The bullpen additions, I think, are huge because they've lost. I think Zach Mizell did a story on this within the past month, and at that time he wrote it, the Guardians have had 27 or 28 games where they led and they lost after turning the game over their bullpen.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Colosse's had one of those. I mean, I think he's leading both leagues in saves, isn't he? He's got 37 saves, something like that. But he's kind of like a Juan, what was it, Armando Benitez? Kind of he scares you a little bit back in the day.
Well, it's not just him. I mean, James Karinchak is basically.
No. As far as the setup guys, they've struggled. Yeah. But
Stefan.
They've had some pretty darn good starters if you look at it. Even though Shane Bieber's had, I don't know if you see what happened to Shane Bieber this year.
He's pitching well. He's doing okay.
Yeah, he's got a 3.70 ERA. I guess he's kind of gotten the bug of the not getting the run support because he does have a 3.70 ERA, but he's only 5-6. But I mean, they got some exciting arms, man, in the rotation. So the kid BB obviously been very nice.
Logan Allen.
Logan Allen's been
McKenzie
nice.
has missed a lot of time this year, but I mean that guy's got a really bright future.
Oh, no doubt. So I mean, I think
Giolito makes his first start tonight.
How about that pickup? That was outstanding. I mean, they picked up like 3 guys.
Yeah, from Matt Moore and Ronaldo Lopez.
My boy Matty Moore. There you go. There's a guy that has found a spot. Well, maybe, but he's found a spot in a short little lefty. If that works for him, and he does real well the rest of this year and pitches in the playoffs, so Matty Moore could pitch for another 4 or 5 years as a lefty setup guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's rediscovered himself as a reliever.
He really has. Yeah,
has done very well. I think Cleveland. I mean, like I said, if they you got to win the series, and if you sweep this series, now all of a sudden you've got all the momentum. You're 2 games out, and there's still 4 weeks of baseball left to be played. I think this is a critical series. Now, Cleveland was a team that's really disappointed me this year. I thought they were going to win the American League this year. I thought that I liked what they did last year. I thought they were on the up.
You would have thought, right?
It seems like, and it could be fool's gold, but it seems like right now they're finding a little something. I mean, there's some rumors, some people whispering, is this going to be Francona's last year? Is he going to retire? And maybe that's giving him
the case.
Giving you a little bit of motivation to win for Tito.
I'll be honest with you, they're 5 back. I don't see them making the playoffs. I mean, they're doing everything and anything to try to do it. But Minnesota's a nice little machine. They're not great, but they play solid. They got a few thumpers, and they're a well-run organization. But I don't see Cleveland catching up to them. And then obviously the wild card race is just too muddled for them to be in the mix.
Well, yeah, wild card, they're out of it. But
no, they're out of it. Yeah.
If the Twins win this series, it's over because they'll have at least a 6-game lead. They could, if they swept, it'd be an 8-game lead. It's over.
If the Twins just win 1 out of 3, they're still they're 4
with 4 weeks left. Yeah.
But I 4 with 4 weeks left. I guess you can make up a game a week. Yeah, you could do.
I think they're still in it if Cleveland takes 2 or 3. But if Cleveland sweeps, now it changes the entire outlook.
Yeah, having been there personally, sweeping anytime is not an easy thing. You know what I mean? When you're going with the pressure of needing to sweep, it's a hard thing to do. I think for them, it's taking 2 out of 3, so you gain a game, and then like you said, you still have 4 weeks where you can knock off a game a week, and then you get down to that end, and then it's up. It's anybody's call. But the West for me has been a fun division.
Yeah, we went deep. We went deep into the West last week.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so we're not neglecting the West today. Don't worry.
That's a fun division. As far as my beloved AL East, man, what a great job. I'm disappointed that Bautista went down for Baltimore. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I wanted them. I'm kind of like a closet Baltimore Orioles fan. You know why? There's a very, very logical reason why.
Why?
Where did the Orioles train for spring training for 30 years?
Well, they're in Sarasota now, right?
Correct. Before Sarasota, where were they for over 30 years?
Were they in – so Philly's in Clearwater, right, and the Yankees are in Tampa. Were they in St. Pete?
They were in Miami, Florida.
Oh, wow.
For – I can't tell you how long. More than 30. Bro, more than 30 years. Probably 40 or 50 years, it seemed to me, because I'm talking about, I grew up in the 70s and 80s and early 80s. We're talking Boo Powell and Cal Ripken Sr. And look, you can look it up real quick how long they were there. But so I was, I would skip school some days in high school and go watch spring training at Bobby Maduro Stadium. So I kind of was, an O's fan from way back when, and I've always been sentimental about that organization, and they're looking pretty darn good. 85 wins. I'm impressed. You know what I mean? And they don't seem to be slowing down. And talk about youth. I mean, they've got guys that are already, the Santanders of the world and the Mountcastle already have 3-4 years in. The guys that are like 2 years and under are phenomenal. Gunderson and they got guys coming up still. Right. So
this is comparable to what the Astros had when they were starting.
So this is not going away, is what we got to look at.
They're going to need to. The run might not be quite as long as Houston, because they're going to have to pony up the money to keep these players.
Yeah, and they're not, and they hardly pony up for anything. That owner needs to go, man. God,
can we start our own group and take him out and buy the team?
I'd rather go to Jerry Reinsdorf and try to offer a nice deal. Jerry's a good man. He'd probably offer us a good nice deal for the Chicago White Sox. Listen, I've met him a handful of times, Mr. Reinsdorf. Give it to us for like $500 million. All right? I can put that together with a few guys, but they're going to be like, "Nah, we want $2.5 billion."
All right, last thing. And then we both got to run. It's Labor Day. We've got family stuff to get to. All right, last thing I want to ask you,
everybody, and God bless America.
God bless America. Okay, last thing I got to ask you, AL East related, and I know this is a loaded, sensitive topic.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Rays are playing right now without Wander Franco.
Yeah.
Can you explain what's going on there and what your take is on the situation?
I mean, I don't see him at all playing, putting on a uniform again the rest of the season. Doesn't make sense for the Tampa Bay Rays. Doesn't make sense for Major League Baseball. It actually doesn't make sense for Wander Franco, honestly. Unfortunately, because of the accusations and the bad look that it is, okay, the bad look, and I still believe I'm very much American, and you're innocent until proven guilty, right? And there isn't enough evidence yet. There's not been smoking guns yet, right? So you would say, like, hey, if he gets off, he should be able to just strap it back on. It's not that simple. Because of the world that we live in, including a podcast and social media, and there's a lot of judgment now in these days. So it'd be detrimental to him, to the organization, and to Major League Baseball and its fans to throw him back out there. This is just kind of like, unfortunately, and it may be super unfortunate if he's proven that he hardly did anything. But if he did do even the semblance of things that kind of put him in bad light, let's say he didn't commit any egregious things, but he was in the bad light, this is the slap that he ends up getting. The lesson that you learn by being in the wrong type of circumstances. That being said, I feel that this is my take, personal take, Orestes Destrade take, that he will be back in uniform come next spring training. And that is because I don't see, from what I'm hearing, that there's a smoking gun at this point in time, or smoking guns, that are going to prohibit him from being back in uniform. What it's going to do is there'll be investigations. There are ongoing investigations now. But let's be candid, man. If there have been celebrities and athletes and stuff that have ended up paying people off, even if they have been innocent, but you just have to just make sure that, that the even lies don't get told about you, right? So if that's the case in Dominican Republic, and these families, what seems to be, look to try to get paid off or something, then there'll be a payoff. I'm not guaranteeing. I'm just saying it from my take. So if that's the take, then there's nobody going to court. There's nobody going to the witness stand saying, "Here's the smoking gun." There's not a smoking gun. There's no case. It's just it gets thrown out. Now he has to come back, and it's still an ugly scenario. But the bottom line is that he's put himself in a very ugly looking scenario. He could have distanced himself from this a long time ago. But unfortunately, you're also talking about a different mindset in Dominican Republic. I'm not excusing it, not condoning it. It's terrible to even be associated with that. It's terrible to even be talking to someone that's even, put it this way, even 18. You know what I mean? Why even chance it? That somebody shows you their ID and says, yeah, I'm 18, and you're 20, 21, 22, making millions of dollars, or even not making, but you're in that position of power, so to speak, as a professional ball player, like a lot of those, Dominican kids are. Just step away from that, because then you won't have any potential look bad scenarios. And that could end up very well being what happened here. He put himself in a bad look-see. Well, that's enough to slap you pretty hard. And what's the hard slap? The best scenario for him right now is that he doesn't play the rest of the year, and he's strapping up and playing in spring training. Because other than that, the worst scenario is that he never plays another Major League Baseball game. But I don't see that ever happening unless there's a smoking gun. And again, not to reiterate, but that only happens if someone testifies to the effect and has videos, conversations, pictures that show that scenario ever happening. So it's just an unfortunate thing. And I think the Rays might have made a mistake. And this is me from the outside looking in, but also from the inside, having been in and around that organization. As much as they are about, with their white and black players, how they treat and how the mantra is, I think that they overlooked the importance of having more, or having or more influential people at the major league level, and even in the minor league level as they're coming up, but at the major league level, think about when they went to the World Series in 2008 with a bunch of young studs coming up. B.J. Upton, David Price, Evan Longoria, all rookies, but highly touted rookies, right? Highly drafted rookies. They had Cliff Floyd. They had Troy Percival. They had Eric Hensky. So you got, a lot of times you can get caught with not having enough, veteran voice in your clubhouse or in the organization, right? And if I were them, I would have signed somebody like Jose Bautista a few years ago, who was available after he was kind of on his downside and he was looking for a team. He lives and resides in Tampa. I would have signed Jose Bautista for one major thing. We've got all these young guys coming up that we already know. We've got this kid by the name of Wander Franco. We've got this kid by the name of Yandy Diaz. We've got these Willie Adames. When they ended up trading him, but they had all these young kids, right? I would have brought in a voice like that. They didn't, and I think it's something that I think was overlooked.
He's Orestes Destrade. Big O, what can people check out? You still doing the radio show?
Still doing the radio show, and I'm getting ready to put out a really formidable. I'll be going to Japan at the end of this month in September, and I'll be putting out a new Instagram that's geared really towards Japan.
Sweet, awesome.
It's geared towards Japan, but I think the American crowd over here will enjoy it too, because obviously now you can translate everything, and but it's really geared towards my fans in Japan. So I'll be sure to get you that when it's all coming out.
Absolutely,
coming out at the end of the month.
The radio show is called The Ozone.
Yeah, the Ozone, and it's been a lot of fun over here at in St. Pete and Clearwater, kind of doing that, and it's a nice little local show. We're having fun with that, man. But congrats on you and what you're doing. Stay healthy and stay good, and have a great rest of the day with your family, buddy.
Thanks, great having you here, back at you, and I'm sure we'll be doing this again in a couple weeks or so when nephew Albert is able to join us.
And it'll be very Atlanta Braves centric.
Yes, very much so.
The best team in baseball right now, deservedly so.
All right, well, thank you, O.
You got it, buddy. Thank you, man.
All right, y'all, that does it for today's edition of the Jack Vita Show with the Big O, Orestes Destrade. Love talking Shohei Ohtani, some of these Japanese stars, what's going on with the Rays. Trying to figure out why the Cubs are so good. Can the Cleveland Guardians catch up to the Minnesota Twins? Lots of fun today. Always great having O here. We'll be back again next week for more sports content. We'll probably I'm certain we'll have another great guest on from the world of baseball. Hard to believe football season is underway, so we'll probably be doing a little more football stuff coming up here soon, if that's what you guys want. I know that we have a large contingent of baseball fans that listen to this show, so the baseball content isn't going anywhere. But if you guys want a little bit of football content, we can work some of that in. So if you guys enjoyed today's show, please hit subscribe and do that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure that you're subscribed, because that way we can get this podcast out to more people. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's at Jack Vita Show. Until our next episode, I'm Jack Vita. Bring in the dancing lobsters.